Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy. 4 nerds by nerds. Hanging with these nerds.
Nathan Nerdark.
Nerdark is Ted.
Today, Nerdarchy tells you our pet peeves when it comes to bad DMing.
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
So we're going to go over bad DMing and Nerdarchy's pet peeves with bad DMs.
Alright, so we've had many gaming sessions over the decades of playing.
Some good, some bad.
We've seen, possibly even done some of these pet peeves as we've, played this wondrous hobby. So we're going to get into these things that we've seen, heard about, know about in RPGs.
All right, we're going to list them and then we're going to dive back in and kind of explain them a little bit. Which one gets your goat, Ted?
All right, so the PCs are my enemy.
Okay.
I think that one is really the one that drives me bonkers. What about you?
For me, it's going to be DM or player. Just freaking pick one already.
And how about you, Nate?
Well, I've always had a problem with the Overbearing Dungeon Master.
That can be pretty tricky.
I can understand why you might have a problem with a Helicopter DM. It's very trying and frustrating.
All right, so Dave, you talked about DM or player, pick one. Do you want to break down what those things, how that irks you?
Okay, it appears in the game one of two ways, and that is, all right, there's a player missing from the session, and the DM kind of decides to play that character so the game can go on. And maybe oversteps their bounds, plays the character wrong, plays them a little bit too much. This is less of a problem. But it can come up and it can be a little bit of a nuisance. And I don't like it as much. I'd rather just be like, at this point in my gaming career, I'd rather get hand wavy and be like, they're just not here or whatever. Yeah. If as a GM I can't work it in. But I think a creative DM can usually find a good way to work it in without bad things happen to that character, without mischaracterizations of that character. And they're still kind of there.
Yeah, and they're not solving all the plots and stuff like that.
Yeah. Now here's the one this is the one that bugs me the most, and that is the DM that feels like I have to be a player too, right? God damn it, you're already a player. You're the dungeon master. You get to play all the monsters, all the NPCs. You do not have to be a part of the party. But this one drives me nuts, and especially like. What the worst part is when they start Mary Sewing it, and it's like it's outshining the players. They have all the solutions.
Of course, they have all the solutions. They made the traps.
Oh, so this is the one that I really don't like, and I know some of you guys use it. And if it's in your game and you enjoy it and your players enjoy it, that's fine. But at our table, I think over the years, we've come to the consensus. We like the NPCs to be the Dungeon Master's domain, and they're distinct and separate from the player characters in the game. And we've even seen like divides even further than that, where they don't even matter as much. I won't go that far. They're still a part of the world. They're living, breathing. But I want my adventurers. I want them to be the heroes. I want the story to evolve around those guys.
It's like, come on, you control 99 point whatever % of the world. You need to be there as well. Come on.
Yeah, leave something for your players. That's all I'm saying.
How about you, Nate?
Okay, so with the Overbearing DM, we've got a DM who's like, well, for my game, I need a mage, a cleric, a thief, and a fighter. And if I have 4 players, I need those 4 roles filled. And that drives me bonkers for several reasons. First off, I hate being the guy that's stuck being the cleric when I don't want to play the cleric. And I've also found that I found that the more I play D&D and the more experience a Dungeon Master has, you don't need certain roles all the time. And it's nice to have the thief, but the guy can just kick in the door. We can burn it with acid or something. There's other ways. Let the party figure out how they're going to deal with their shortcomings. That's part of the fun of the game, is the creativity about it. So it kind of really aggravates me that pigeonhole you into this one spot. You've got to be this role and this is filled.
Right, did you get the short straw or not? But yeah. I think the best part is Nate dating himself by calling the rogue the thief. The only thing that would have made it better if he would have used the word magic user.
I don't. No. What if he called it fighting man?
That predates even Nate, I believe.
Not all rogues are thieves. I just want to put that out there.
Are you a classist?
So, also with the Overbearing DM, you have these issues where they end up at some point controlling a character. Either, you failed to save, and rather than saying, all right, you're charmed and you want to attack the party, you want to defend this mage over here now instead of be how you normally act. And you're like, okay, as a PC, I'll take on that role and I'll do it. No, instead the DM says, well, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're attacking here, you're doing all that kind of stuff. So it's like, basically, you're no longer in charge of you're the only person you're in charge of in this game. Similar issues with how we have, what Dave was bringing up, that kind of like alteration of what the player character is. And I think that's a big deal, to let your player be in control of that character. Even when they're not in control inside the game, the person playing that character is still in control of the character.
And we've actually had a handful of these happen over the years. There was a character, there was a friend of ours who used to run games for us, and we actually recently brought this guy up on a video. But I played a fighter. I wanted to be a general. Like, I wanted to be in charge of an army, and that was my character goal. And for whatever reason, the DM really got behind my character's concept. But at some point in time, he's like, well, he doesn't need to be a general. He needs to be a king. I want to put him on a throne. And I got whisked away into this story that's supposed to take over a castle and sit on a throne. And I'm like, that's not what I wanted.
Literally, in that campaign, when that Dungeon Master will run, we said the best and worst things that could happen to your character is if he liked your character. Or didn't like your character. The worst thing that could happen is if he liked or did not like your character, because he was trying like re-envision your character to what he wanted instead of what you wanted as the player. The best place to be, the sweet spot was in the middle, unnoticed. You could kind of like sneak by.
Yeah.
And we also played in a game where the DM decided there needed to be a paladin and he also needed to be an Azamar. So like he literally changed one of the player characters, from a tiefling, some kind of like bone master or necromancy type thing, like complete opposite, to an Azamar paladin. I don't even know if there was a saving throw or anything. It's just, you were this, now you're this.
And it wasn't like, we had entered into some celestial temple and fought, some kind of deity. Like, we were in a town in some kind of basement, and all of a sudden, like, there was this flash of light, and the character that we were traveling with was completely different. And I don't know whether there was like conversation off to the side. It was like, oh, by the way, this is now what you are. This is now your motivation and your direction, or what happened. But all of a sudden, it's like complete and utter personality switch. I'm super good guy.
Yeah, a complete loss of agency. Definitely a pet peeve. If things like this happen through story and the players should be involved with it, or or there should be a recourse for switching back or something. But yeah, it's bad.
Are there anything else in the overbearing DM?
I think that pretty much covers it. Anything where the DM tries to take away player agency and force the players to make decisions, for the campaign, for the long haul, this can come up from time to time and it's okay, but when it consistently comes up, it's really the DM just kind of taking control of your character, taking away your agency in the game, and at a certain point you're like, why don't you just play by yourself?
So the PCs are my enemy breaks down into a handful of different things. So number one, this is where you're going to have DMs that are fudging dice so that you do more damage because you feel it's necessary. Now, you can do as you like at your table, and there might have been a time where I was gung ho on, well, this monster is supposed to do 33%, of hit point damage across the board, so I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to boost stats or whatever have you. I don't feel a need to go down that direction anymore. But then there's the ones that really I felt as a challenge, and that's the DM who really pits himself against them and tries to either directly kill them just for the spite of killing them, or pushes the boundaries of what the combat should be, and that I'm gonna change effects, I'm gonna have things going so that the players, well, they might TPK or they might just barely survive, and that's the kind of combat you need to run.
The real antagonistic type of DM that's like, yeah, it's me against them, and someone needs to win the D&D.
The battle lines are drawn, and I don't feel the I don't feel how that how that makes the game better by having players only barely win every single combat. That to me does not seem fun. You need the glorious victories every now and again where it's like, we stand triumphant on the field of battle as our enemies lie before us.
Sometimes I think it's even worse than that. It's not like battle to battle. It's like the overarching theme of the campaign where you're barely just always eking by. Now, I've been accused of being a killer DM or antagonistic, but for the most part, from my part, I think it was more show, more bark than bite. I definitely like to terrorize my players and make them think that way once upon a time.
There's a certain level of interest that you gain from the players feeling like their character's life's on the line all the time.
But it's come down to over the years I've chilled, and also I think the perspective of my players have changed a little bit, and they realize, especially as they DM more often, they're like, he really wasn't as bad as I thought, because as I like to say, I have all these books, I can kill anybody anytime I want.
The antagonistic DM, I wouldn't call you a killer DM. I see a difference between those particular things, and it was much more in the past that I would have considered you as antagonistic. Over the years, as you said, you've mellowed out a little bit. But the killer DM, I've got a specific example, and we ran with a DM back in the day, and his idea of the game was there was no such thing as party balance. We did individual XP, and if you weren't there, you weren't getting the XP, which is fine. I don't see a problem with those that want to go down that road. But for a while, if you died, you started over at level 1. Didn't matter what the rest of the party was. Eventually, we were, approaching that mid-level, 10 to 14, and it's like, I'll feel nice. I'll let new players start off at level 3. So that's just, you can't adventure together when there's such a staggering difference. And then in one of these examples, we had a 9-player party. All 3 of these guys were in the group along with 6 others. These 6 others were either new additions to the group that night, or characters who had died in the previous session. We were the only ones that were alive. I believe we were like 9th, 10th level. Everyone else was 3rd. The roof of the inn was literally ripped off by some titanic creature. And then before we could have so much as an initiative roll,
The Guardians attacked,
and 4 walls, wall of force, wall of fire, wall of stone, wall of something else, drops on us all at once. The 6 characters, I don't think a single wall, I don't think they could have survived a single wall, let alone 4.
They couldn't have survived minimum damage.
They're wiped. They're gone. They're dead. So, you made new characters. Well, they're dead, and it's now on the 3 of us to deal with this.
Did we make it out of that alive? I don't think we did.
We did.
Oh.
I don't remember exactly how, but I know we continued on, thereafter. But it was one of the most, in my opinion, that scene was like the worst D&D experience I've had.
Nice. It will forever live on it.
Hopefully it will remain your number 1 forever.
Well, I mean, it's going to take something pretty bad to wipe that.
Early playing with my wife and my son, they would do the same thing. Like they pushed me into the role of the antagonist DM. But that was their perception. Like, they wouldn't want to tell me anything. They wouldn't have secrets. They're like, you're going to use that against us. I'm like,
well, I mean, over the years, they, of course, had heard stories. So
I suppose.
From somebody.
Yeah. So the question is, guys, what are your pet peeves when it comes to DMing? What are some of the things that you consider bad DMing? We got a place for it. That's in the comments below while you're at it. Like, share, and subscribe.
You can patronize us in a good way over on Patreon.
You can hang out with us over on Facebook.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.